Hello, welcome to another episode of Ultraman, well, an Ultraman opinion. This Ultraman you see in front of you is Ultraman Deku, as he appears to Kanata Asumi. Kanata his name, but Asumi is his family name. Just for those who either don't know about Ultraman Deku or his series, so in case wondering about the name. So his name is Kanata, but his family name is Asumi. And here this is after Kanata in episode 1 of Ultraman Deku, where Kanata was attacked by the sphere but absorbed but was saved at the last moment by Ultraman Deku sent his light, and in the process he gained the device in his hand, that is the D Flasher, allowing him to transform into these three forms. The middle form is his main form, Flash type. The blue one is Miracle type, and the red one is Strong type. Yeah, Strong. Hope I got that right, or this would be embarrassing. And these three are the forms that he transforms. He first had access. The main transformation is Flash type, and then he gained Strong. Then he gained Miracle. Now, for the Ultraman reviews, I don't really feel like reviewing one single episode because it will be long and difficult, and people don't really want to be spoiled being told what each and every episode is about, so I prefer you go to watch and see what it is. And so, yeah, but in the first part where Decker met, now, when you see what he looks like with the front pointy top, a theory that I had that has so far been incorrect because it hasn't been proved. How when you see the glowing point and how one side you have like that golden plate armor, I thought he was somehow was connected to this Ultraman because you see he has the the power beeper thing on his chest there. One side of his body, the black poised body is like separate, different from the rest. But it turns out Ultraman Decker's didn't come from the past but came from the future. This moment Ultraman Decker sent his power to the past Kanata, and this is Ultraman Decker's true form, played by Masashi something. I don't really remember the actors' names. More used to calling them on the characters' names. But this is Ultraman Decker, and his Ultraman name, but his human name, ironically, is Decker Asumi. So he is Decker himself. He's the original Decker that sent his powers into the past to help Kanata, because he's not from. Now, when it comes to time travel, there's different ways. In Ultraman Trigger, the prequel to this series, basically Trigger happened in that world, and 10 years later Ultraman Deck happens, so it happens in the same world, just different points of time. In Ultraman Trigger, they had a time travel episode. In episode 11 and 12, it was time travel was mentioned, and you see Ultraman Trigger, gets sent to the past, and he slightly alters the timeline when he returns and transforms. Kengo Machina transforms, all the giants regain their memories. The difference, they remember this new timeline, the alteration. Now, so far in Ultraman Decker, the type of time travel that was used was not one where you can alter the past. Decker Asumi says he's from the future universe. Like, he probably mentioned he's from the future of the doppelganger universe of where you're from. Like, Kanaka was from the future, and so he can no, not Kanaka. Deku is from the future. He was chasing back a scientist named Agams from another planet, an alien planet, but because the spear was placed around his body, they couldn't get through the barrier. So he has come to accept that all his people are doomed, they won't survive, but Deku and his allies are continuing to fight. Now, in the future, it was mentioned that Yuzu of the Trigger universe is in 300 years, like probably a descendant of Yuno from Ultraman Trigger, and Ultraman dying. It is shown in a picture, not like in a clear flashback we're talking, but Ultraman Dyna is in that future universe fighting against the spears there, because it turns out the spears are not native of this universe. They were brought here through time travel by the scientist as Gams, or I believe that's his name, so he can basically kill all humanity, destroy Earth, get his revenge on humanity, because he blames because how humans went forward in space. Now, Deku Asumi is from 300 years in the future, and in here, he gave his ancestor Kanata Asumi the power to transform into Deku. He gave his Deku body in his transformation. But the question is, how did Deku become an ultra? That's still a mystery. We found out how the spears arrived here where Deku's from, but we have not found how Deku Asumi got his powers, because we know he's descent. He says he's descended from the Asumi clan, but we don't know exactly how he's related. The only way I can think of is that his father might. I mean, actually, before I say this, there's a rumor that I saw on Twitter saying Deku and Dyna are brothers, but that's not possible. I mean, depends which Dyna, because Dyna is the father from the Ultraman Dyna series. Shin Asuka plays as the son of, I forget his name, but Shin Asuka's father became Ultraman Dyna in an experiment with a jet where he hit a beam of light and he transformed. And so, if Dyna and Deku are brothers, that means that Deku's father is the same father as Shin Asuka, but that means his father, Deku's father would also be Dyna. So it's kind of weird, but it's quite possible that the original Dyna, Shin's father, might have passed on his ultra body to his son, but his father has passed away. The actor that originally portrayed as Dyna's human form passed away in Japan a few years ago, So it's kind of confused now. I was wondering whether or not Decker and Trigger are related somehow know each other, because we see that dual sword allows both Trigger and Decker to use it. So yeah, and this transformation you see is something that Kanata achieved in episode 15, called Ultraman Decker Dynamic Type. Now, Decker Sumi here, he never achieved that. Excuse me while I drink. Decker Sumi never achieved the transformation of the dynamic form. That's something that Kanata has achieved, but at the end of the show, I'm curious to see how this will take out, because episode 15 aired yesterday. So right now it is 2022 October the 22nd. As I'm recording this, I don't know exactly when I'll end up posting this, because I'm trying to post one episode every so often, because as YouTube, I can only post certain videos a day. So yeah. So by the time I post this, it'll be spoilers for the next episode will probably be out, maybe. Don't know. And yeah, and here you see Kanata Asumi with his ancestor Deku on one side, both of them side by side. Not a clip from the show, a behind the scenes clip showing the two characters side by side. And then the other is scenes from the last episode where Deku Asumi says, "I never told you my name. Deku Asumi. I'm counting on you, my ancestor." And that's when Kanata realizes that Deku is his ancestor. I'm pretty sure that's why their powers were so in tune, why Kanata is able to achieve an evolution form, because Kanata is his descendant. But if we assume Ultraman Dyna is Deku's father, and he's basically the younger brother of Shin, the second Dyna. It's like you have Ultraman Dyna Senior, then Ultraman Dyna Junior. It's like one Ultraman body, but different controllers. So that means that his dad, and we don't know which Dyna at this point. We don't know which Dyna is in the future universe. Now, Decker Asumi says he's from the future universe, but he never said which future universe. Did he mean like a future universe, like the in somewhere's in the future? Because there are two methods of time travel. One from the Ultraman trigger, when you go back in time, you change something, and you go back future, and you're playing everything the same. Or like time traveling here, where you go to the past and it doesn't affect the future, because Decker has been fighting the spears in the future, and Earth is still there. He grew up on Mars. Earth wasn't destroyed. Hell, he probably was born on Earth, then went to Mars when he was a kid at some point. Who knows? And so, yeah, so at the end of the episode 15, Deku Sumi went back to the future and trusted his ancestors with his powers. But we will find out in the final episode whether or not Kanata Asumi will keep Deku's powers. Because if they're from two different universes, because Deku only is given his powers because he himself cannot fully he's only in the past for a short amount of time. interdimensional the interdimensional transfer system that the alien Agams created. He made sure to destroy after he crossed through, and so Decker and his allies were only able to slightly repair it. He could only appear in the past for a bit. So well, I'm gonna end the episode here because I had 15 minutes. So thank you for listening on me talk about Ultraman Decker. Well, I'll be seeing once new information comes out. I'll continue talking about this. So thank you for listening on me about Ultraman Decker, and thank you for listening. If you want to hear me talk about, hear me talk about more about Ultraman, please leave a comment, and a like, and subscribe if you want to see more. So thank you very much for listening, and bye bye until next time.